rock and roll this thing. Aubrey, are you ready?
I am ready to rumble.
Okay, cool. So for those of you who may be new to this, first of all, Jake, I made you co-host. If you could help me with the waiting room, I would appreciate it. Welcome to the Mastery Models Mastermind. This is a safe place to learn and grow. We bring a master on every time and with a topic. This is recorded because this is one of the most requested topics. So I'm sure that although they're not on the call today, we will have people watching. So please make sure that if you're on the call and you're able to, please turn your video on. This is a small group. This is supposed to be collaborative. And we're going to start with a little bit of an interview, and then we're going to open it up to questions, and we're going to mastermind around it. So, and you are getting Aubrey and I totally unscripted.
Totally.
Totally unscripted. So you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself with a question, or you can put it in the chat box. We will take interaction in any way or shape or form. So, Aubrey, so first of all, I just give, for those of you who don't know you, just give us like your quick real estate journey, years in the business, current production level, and anything relevant to us so they can understand why you are our master today.
So I began my journey over at John L. Scott, actually, and was there for a year. And that was July of 2017 when I was licensed, and then came over to KW about a year after I started at John L. Scott. Now, as far as my production, I'm a solo agent, and I have 2 solo agents in the office that help me with showings. Plus, I use the in-house listing coordinator and in-house transaction coordinator. I'm a solo agent that has an enormous amount of leverage, but on track this year to close 70 units with $1 million GCI.
Woo!
That's where I am.
Fantastic. And I love that. And I love that you are like representing our solo agents operating at an extremely high level. Now, with that being said today, you guys, I think everybody on this call, well, we have different production levels. We are going to be speaking at the $2.5 to $7 million language level. So just so you guys know, we're going to be talking tactical, but if you're on this call, we assume that we're not going to be talking necessarily basics of launching real estate career. We are getting tactical with some strategies that you can implement. And today's strategy is effective webinar or seminar. So Aubrey, tell us, why did you integrate? There's a million different ways that we can lead generate and provide service to our clients. Why did you choose doing seminars? What kind of seminars are you doing? And why did you choose to implement this as one of your business strategies?
So I started with the buyer seminar. I do have a seller seminar that I do as well, but that really came much later sort of in the process. I started with buyer seminars, frankly, because it was a time management issue. As I've become, excuse me, more and more popular, I would say, like in the social media groups and the community groups, I was just getting so many people that were asking questions that were just very sort of basic, not really quite ready yet to buy a house, maybe, definitely in the pipeline, but, 6 months to a year to 2 years out. And what I found is that, I have 3 young children at home and, all sorts of other things going on. I just didn't have the time to spend an hour to an hour and a half with each of these folks. So what we did is we basically just funneled them into what became my home buyers class. We started that class 3 years ago, myself and a lender partner that I met through BNI, which is I'm part of business networking group, and she's part of the same group, but in a different chapter, and had already done a number of transactions with her. And so really just formed this great partnership with them. And we both really have a heart for education. So really for us, this was about, let's not just teach about like this, the process of it, because the process really matters, because of course, an educated client becomes a lot more integrated in with the process. But let's also then talk about what do the micro markets look like? Like, let's talk about the data so that we can set that expectation of what does it mean if you can buy now? What is the advantage of that over, for example, buying a year from now, right? Like, what does the market look like? Where do we sort of see it going? Where does it come from? So that's those are the people that we kind of funneled into this class. They were in person. We mostly did them actually at the market center. I do them every month, and it's very, very consistent. And then, of course, the day before our March class, everything shut down. So we quickly had to pivot, and I had to learn Zoom very quickly, which was interesting because I'm not super technologically proficient. And then we began again every month very consistently doing the buyers classes through Zoom.
Okay, so there was so much in there. I'm going to start unpacking some of that, right? Like, first of all, you started this conversation saying, I'm going to be an MREA, 70 units as a solo agent, and walk through, this is some leverage I have in my life. And then even the concept of how you were communicating and educating your clients was a leverage-based activity.
Yes, because I just didn't have the hours in the day to meet with people that were just really at the beginning stages. And so this became such a great vehicle to just get everybody in the room. And then it's okay because I'm spending 2 hours once a month talking to folks that may be ready to go, but honestly may not be ready to go for a couple of months. And so, or even a couple of years. So yes, that even became a leverage strategy for us as well. And then of course, the other benefit of it is when they work with our team, so myself and the lender, and we brought in a home warranty, a homeowner's insurance guy as well. When they use our team, they get a benefit of working with our team. The lender provides a $500 credit if they take the class and then use our team. And then I, as a gift at closing, I will give a home warranty. So we know we're trying to really get people to really just buy into us as a team as well.
Okay, so you leveraged your time, your lead generation strategy, and the other piece you leveraged in there was whatever you guys want to call them, your allied resources, your, what I call them power partners, or your team, right? Your team of service providers to help you deliver something very impactful. And question there, do they invite guests as well? Or is every guest in the room somebody that you generated to invite?
That's such a good question. And it was a conversation that has been ongoing actually with the other power partners in the room. So the way that I promote the class is through those community groups that's mostly the people that are asking questions and finding me. So I do it that way. I do a paid ad. They do contribute to that paid ad on social media as well, to target the people that are kind of in those beginning stages. And I do a newsletter where I'm also promoting the class. My home insurance guy, he also promotes the class. The lender is a little tricky because she has so many other agents that she works with. So she will promote it like the day of, but she doesn't really do a lot of promotion for it. I would say 98% of the people in the room are people that I have brought to the table.
So what I love though too is you're really driving it. And however, you leveraged your power partners for delivery of content. You've leveraged your power partners for the budget, and you've leveraged them to help spread the word and attract a broader scope or a bigger funnel.
Right. Because I can't just depend on the social media, the groups that I'm part of, which is why I do the ad as well. And I make sure that with the ad that it's not salesy, that it really is to do with the education piece of it. Because that's really my, for those of you who are friends with me on Facebook, you'll know that that's my jam, is I like that people feel educated about the process. So yeah, advertisement, lots of cross promotion and different community boards and different networking groups that I'm through. And I encourage my friends who aren't even necessarily in the market just to take my class so that they can better explain to their friends kind of what I'm doing out there. So it's really a win-win all the way around.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I, as you're talking, I'm writing down some talking points, and I hope you guys are too. And if I don't get to ask the question, make sure you're banking them because we're going to open this up. Let's talk about size, quality, and quantity, right? Like in your mind, what is a successful turnout of potential clients?
So this is another really great question, because when we had people in the room, when we were still doing things in person, sometimes we would see 25, 30 people in the class. And what's great about Zoom is that that becomes now up to 100 people in the class. And so when we were in person, honestly, the attrition was much better, because what we would do is we would tell people right at the beginning of the class, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. And at the end of the class, we are going to be setting up appointments with Natalie, who is the lender partner. So we just set that expectation right at the beginning. And then Natalie literally will get everybody at the door and literally make appointments for them before they even left. So we had to switch gears a little bit when we did that via Zoom, because when people sign into Zoom, we are getting mandatory names, emails, and phone numbers. So that's going right into my database, of course. But during the course of the class, Natalie, when I'm speaking, is getting down, is messaging people directly so that she can write down some appointments for people. So we're still doing it, just in a different way. I have had classes where there have had 10 people in it and 8 people have set appointments. And that to me is much better than if you have a class of 30 people with 5 people that make appointments. It definitely is the quality as opposed to the quantity. That being said, the people that are in the room can also help promote the class, even if they don't set appointments. So we want to create a good experience no matter what the quality of the person is who is attending.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to go a little deeper into this. And I don't know if you've done this or not, but have you tracked your conversion over time? You've been doing it for 3 years, right? So do we know, can you offer any insight into metrics of how many people actually convert to a client, actually convert to a transaction?
Yeah, so when we were in person, that was really easy to track. And we actually had an 85% conversion from people sitting the class to people making the appointment. And then from making the appointment into actual closing, we had a 75%. And that could be, remember, some of the people that are taking that class didn't close for 2 years. So some of that we just don't know yet, because it can be very far out. But 75%. And then on Zoom, as far as appointments, it's about 50% is the rate of in the class to making the appointment. And then it's 35% of sitting the class through to converting to a closed sale. Now, again, we don't know what that's going to look like, because some of those people just aren't ready yet. But as far as appointments, and then future appointments, if they don't set it that day, that's what it's converting at. So Zoom is definitely not as effective as in person, but we all know that. In person, belly to belly is where real estate agents kind of shine. And we can't, control if people hop off the call, but then they're also not getting the $500 and the warranty either. So that's how we look at it.
I love that.
I just have to interrupt for 1 second and just say, like, Stacy, you look so fabulous. I can't get over it. You look so good. I'm just glad to see you here. I love it.
Oh my gosh. I love that too. Love you, Stacy. Okay. I'm a numbers guru, and my heart was beaming when you knew your numbers, right? Like, so you've been doing it for 3 years. A lot of these people that have experienced this, especially the Zoom ones, right? Like if they're taking a while to get into houses, like that business is coming.
Yeah.
But I really want to hone down on that. Like, from your experience, do you have an average amount of time from an initial home buyer seminar to purchase? Because you said some take up to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any kind of metric of expectation there?
So, I mean, I would say, and that is not a number that I have, but I would say just from kind of my boots on the ground experience in the class, I would say the average is probably about 6 months, because even those people that think they're a few years out, most of them actually end up buying sooner, in part because of what we're talking about in the class. So they may think that they're further out than they actually are. But when I tell them, like, hey, we have a 20% appreciation year over year, which means this house that you can afford, at $500,000, according to last year's numbers, that house that was 500,000 last year is now 600,000. And are you going to be able to afford a $600,000, and usually it has to do with they don't want to break their lease. And so then we have to talk about, well, this is what that looks like. This is what the law is in Oregon. This is how mortgage payments work. So you're not going to be paying both, and et cetera, et cetera. I would say 6 months is probably the average. Some of the people too are not, they're people that have already contacted me, but are maybe not comfortable doing a one-to-one yet. And so would prefer to be in more of a class setting. And so some of those people are ready to go like now. They just, time wise or just comfort wise, they prefer to do it in the class. So yeah, like I just had someone who took the class last 2 months ago, and they just closed yesterday. So I would say, anywhere between, 2 to 6 months for the ones that are ready to go.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to just take a second, Aubrey, because I know that just in case I can sense it in the room and just from so many consultations and coaching, I'm going to take a moment to break down a limiting belief. Is that okay? So many of you are maybe thinking, well, gosh, like I'm going to do the in-person because that's a better conversion. And I thrive person to person. Yes, you do. And Aubrey just said she has a better rate of return. But I'm going to circle back to something she said at the very beginning. In person, it's 25 to 30 people. 85% of them set an appointment, 75% of them close. On Zoom, she has up to 100 people at a 50% conversion to appointment and a 35% closing. So guys, I want you to take a second and do the math on that. 50% appointments of 100 people and 35% closing is more than 85% of 25 people. So although,
well, and I don't know that I'll ever go back to in person, to be honest, because you can just cast a much wider net through Zoom, and people are very accustomed to Zoom now, as opposed to when we first started Zoom, right? And people are like, is my camera on? Now people know how to use it. So I do prefer at this point to stick with Zoom, and that's, and that's okay. You can reach a wider audience.
I love that. And I just want to say that because so many, as many of us with realtor profiles, like we love that handshake and that hug, and we love to be belly to belly. But remember that just because that may not be possible at times doesn't mean that you can't be wildly effective. Now, the other thing that we're going to have a conversation about is consistency over time, right? She's been doing it for 3 years, every single month. On average, they're taking about 6 months to close. So a seminar today is not feeding our business today. It's feeding our business 6, 9, 12, 24 months in the future.
This is my database. If you look at my database, and I always tag them on if they came to an in-person class or a Zoom class through the home buyers class, it's astounding to see how that's all come across. And then they come, they're getting my newsletter every week, and I'm inviting them to my bigger client events when we go back to doing that. Yeah. So they just become part of my database as soon as they register. And here's the other thing too. Not everybody who registers on Zoom is going to show up, right? Some of them, we send them evites, we remind them and all of that, but some of them don't show up. Well, that's okay, because they're going to be in my database. Now they're in command, and they can maybe come to the next class. Or so like once they're in my database, like I'm not letting them go. The other thing that I find that's really helpful for this class too, is that when I have someone who wants to refer someone to me, that it's such an easy thing, because I have a link on Facebook that has all the description of the class. And so they can so easily just say, hey, Aubrey, when's your next class? And I just give them the link, and they can send that to their friend. So that it's, again, like, I think it's just an easy way for people to keep promoting me, because I make it easy by keeping it consistent.
I love it. And really leveraging your time, right? Like even when I look at, you're going to have 25 people in the room, 85% are set appointments. Well, 15%, if you had it one-on-ones with them, would have been an hour of your time that probably wouldn't have resulted in a closed transaction, right? Not all appointments are equal, but this can equalize them.
And if someone tells me that like they're ready to go now, I'm not going to necessarily be like, here, take the class first, wait 3 weeks until my next class. I'm obviously going to meet with them. These are really for the people that are just like, they really kind of they don't even know where to begin. And look, it's a lot to buy a house. So we really go through all of the steps of what the process is. We describe what earnest money is, everything, the micro markets. The lender really talks about the different lending programs and what's going on out there. And then of course the homeowner's insurance guy also talks about, that piece of it too. So that I really think it's like the beginner's group for real estate. And some people are just more ready than they think they are. And some people, they realize like, oh my gosh, like we've got some work to do. And you know what? That's okay, because they've made an appointment with the lender who is going to put them on a path to getting their credit ready or saving up or whatever they need to do. And we are in constant communication now, me, the lender, and the client, so that we just can push them forward to the finish line, whenever that is.
So let's talk a little bit brass tacks, right? Like I love that you just kind of said, hey, here's the elements. Let's talk about that content. Do you control the content, or do you allow your partners to control their sections? How do you structure and control the event?
So in the beginning, I'm introducing everybody, but it's my event, right? So, and then anybody that knows me knows that I control I control the structure. So I introduce everybody and I go first. I'm usually about 40 minutes or so. And then Natalie will help me with questions, and we can kind of go through some of the questions and address some of those as long as they're short. If they're longer questions, and of course, I'm going to chat with them about it and set up an appointment. Natalie goes next, and her part is also about 40 minutes or so. And she does control her own content, but it's the same content that's been for 3 years, with an adjustment for things like, COVID or program changes or, down payment assistance stuff. So she controls that content, but she has that on like a PowerPoint because she's fancy. And then Bryce, who is my country financial guy, he also creates his own content. But, this is all stuff that we run by each other before we started this to make sure that it's all going to fit. The other thing that we make a really cognizant choice to do is to constantly keep promoting each other and within our own presentations. So when I talk about the first red square of getting pre-approved, I say, your first step is that your golden ticket is that you need to get pre-approved through Natalie, right? Or like, and then when we're through this process, then we're going to contact Bryce, so that we're constantly, just cross promoting each other during that, so that we are promoting that we are a team that are going to help them from start to finish. And the way that I present it is, I want you to feel really empowered by this process. But at the end of the day, you need to find the house that you love, drop off your earnest money, show up to sign, and get your keys. And I got the rest of it. Like, we got the rest of it.
That's awesome. Now, just brass tacks, Teresa posted in there, when we're doing the Zooms, are you all in the same place, or are you like in different places?
So we've tried both. There is a lot of feedback when we're in the same place, and the sound is kind of weird. So we went back to just being in our respective homes.
Awesome. Yeah, I found the same thing, right? You guys, this is one of the biggest things, is delivering in a powerful and effective way, right? Like, and if you get feedback that feels unprofessional, right? If they have a hard time hearing you, you have a higher chance of them dropping off a call. So think about the details of any experience, and the more you can show up as, hey, I've got the details figured out, and it goes seamlessly, the more confidence they're going to have in you and helping them navigate a big decision. Would you agree, Aubrey?
Yeah, it's a pretty well-oiled machine, and we want to come across as professional, like we are the experts. And part of that has to do with the technology. I mean, people are understanding to a certain extent, but it also has to be convenient and comfortable for them as well. So yeah.
Okay. Now, before we open this up for questions, and Jake, thank you so much for dropping that link in the box for some of you who want more information on KW Connect. They have got a great resource on doing trainings and seminars. But Aubrey, I want you to take them back to the beginning. We've got people on the call that they've been rattling around in their mind. We all know success is sequential, not simultaneous. Let's say you're that person, right? Like, you're considering doing your very first seminar. What's your best advice? What is the step that they should take?
I think the first piece is to know your audience and know what it is that you're trying to get across. If you we are doing a 2-hour class because we're going a little bit more in depth. There are some people that do this class in an hour. So it really depends on sort of what you're trying to do. The other thing is I would make sure that whatever you do, that this is about intentional business and that you have really good follow-up. So you really need to structure the class before you really get started. And then the next piece of it is, because this did replace one of my legs of lead generation. You know, my legs of lead generation are networking, referrals, and it used to be open houses. And now we've just had so many people at this beginning stage that this is now my third leg of lead generation. So being able to promote it to the people who need to receive it. So who are those people that are interested in the first time home buyer classes? I wouldn't spend thousands of dollars on a Facebook ad, you know, like that. The ads that we did are in addition to, but this is really an opportunity for you to reach out to your database, people that you haven't spoken with before, and reaching out to them and letting them know about a class. It's a touch, right? It's not just about the class, it's also about the touch itself. So I would say just making sure, number one, that you've structured your class in a way that you're getting across the information that you want. I would find people that you want to teach class with. We decided to do it with a with those two power partners. We used to have Andrea Crawford there as well from Warranty, Fidelity Home Warranty. And then also we had, used to have Escrow Title there as well. What we found was that those were two sections that people were not connecting in with as much. And it was not necessarily a great use of their time. I didn't want to waste their time. And so we sort of just incorporated those two elements into our presentation. So find your power partners. And also you need to find the person who likes to do this. Natalie loves to do this class. She has great energy. Bryce has great energy. He used to be a theater teacher. So he's like, this is like his moment to shine. You know, it's the same thing with open houses. If you're going to partner with a lender at an open house, you have to find power partners that actually like open houses. So find your people, create your structure, know who your audience is, and make sure that you have very intentional business coming out of this class. And the other thing that we haven't talked about yet, but we can get into, is why then we didn't start with the sellers class, right? Like the sellers class came later. And there was a reason for that. And I also don't do them as often either.
So tell us about that, right? And then we're going to open this up for questions. Why did you start buyer and then go to seller? And why is that a different model, right? Like it's a similar model, but just a different frequency.
Totally different subjects for one thing. And also because I think it really sort of, if you think about when you're a newer agents are working with buyers, I think a lot more than with sellers initially. And that is the case with most people. So the sellers classes sort of follow the same path, which is that my buyers eventually become sellers. So I found that there was a need from my past buyers who were looking to sell. Many of them were first-time home buyers, so they've never sold before, to get a class now that they're interested, 3-4 years in, after they've bought a house, and what the selling process looks like. So that class is structured very differently. That's actually only an hour. And it's only myself, and I have a general contractor that I use on my team for almost all of my projects. And she comes in, and what she talks about is, what is the best return on investment for projects you can do around your house that will be good for selling? Because doing projects for yourself and renovations for yourself and updates and upgrades are vastly different than what you should be doing as a seller when you're putting it on the market. And so that's what we really focus on. Is number one is, of course, what the process looks like to sell. I have different levels of listing packages, so I go through all of that and sort of what I bring to the table. But the bulk of the conversation has to do with what are the kinds of things that have good return on investment, and what are the trends in that, and what are the trends in staging, because we have, we provide staging as part of our services as well. So all of those things, but that's an hour class.
Okay, love so much of what you said, guys. So I want you to stop and listen to this. Like, this is the infinite game. This is a business owner that says, I am building a career around this, and I'm having business today, tomorrow, and into the future. You essentially created the nursery for your sellers class by doing 3 years of buyer seminars. Mm-hmm. And the people that liked and appreciated that level of education and way of receiving the education are naturally suited to go to the next one.
Right. Right.
Cool.
And I think, and again, it's coming from a place of education. So we're really talking about, paint colors. And we're talking about what the trends are in the staging and what the trends are in like, your front door is like one of your best returns on investment as far as like painting that. And we talk about things like the cost of wood and why you maybe shouldn't replace your cedar deck that's dry rotted out with maybe more wood product, right? Like it really is an educational piece. And I also think it really cross promotes my general contractor because the sellers in that class then use her, which is great.
Awesome. Okay, I have asked a million questions. I want to open it up, but before we do that, we've talked a lot about a buyer seminar or seller seminar. There might be people on this call that are looking at other seminars. So I want to do a quick mastermind, you guys. Unmute yourself, drop it in the box. What other seminars or trainings can you offer or are you interested in offering? Don't be shy, guys. I'll give you one. Investment seminars. My team did that for years, right? Similar, almost, what's interesting, Aubrey, almost the exact same model. You are doing it far better than I ever did, but similar model, right? What other seminars can we offer? Short-term rental seminars, awesome.
One thing I've been thinking about doing is actually just bringing in like wealth building or financial like teachers to our database because it's a win-win. They learn, and then as they build wealth, they might decide to invest in real estate.
What else, you guys?
We haven't tried it, but that's one of the things just recently I'd like to attempt with our database.
I love that. Let's think niches, because Aubrey, like said, who's your target market? Anybody doing downsizers?
I've actually been working, not necessarily intentionally, but now more so intentionally, with people that are going through big life changes like divorce or transitionals, moving into a retirement community. I've been dealing a lot with the sort of emotional component of selling, including, of course, those people who have estates. So yes, I think having classes like that would also be great.
Downsizers. And then I would say the other one is like that senior care, right? Like that senior housing, senior care. It's a totally different thing that you might have to have estate planners or things like that. Divorce, it's transition, like that might be difficult to do in a public setting, but I'm sure professionally you can do that, right? What else? Is there anything that we missed that people are doing out there?
I was going to say on that seniors transitioning, I know an agent in Colorado Springs specifically built his business on that. He connected with all the like luxury assisted living type places, and he connected the attorneys. So now he's their go-to realtor for every person that comes in.
You could also focus on military families.
Military families. What about like farm and ranch? What about subsistence living, right? Like think about your niches, like what is happening out there right now?
So I just was inspired by you, Aubrey, and I've never done a class like this, but I was thinking my youngest is 25 and a lot of his friends are getting married right now and buying houses. And I was always, the team mom. So I know a lot of his friends over the years, and I think it might be really fun to host a class and invite them and let them know that they're invited, some of his old baseball teams, whatever. So that might draw them in as well, that they get to see each other, not just hear about home buying, but that could work well.
I tell you what, Stacey, it's such a good thing because I've had recently in the last year, some of the youngest buyers I've ever had, people that are 21, 22, 23 years old, people you wouldn't necessarily expect in the home buying market who are, because of the interest rates and just, they have a good job, that they are interested in investing. They're interested in buying their first house. I think that we discount this group a lot because they're not in they're not that niche. They're in a niche market. They're not in that kind of lion's share of the real estate market is not people in their early 20s, but it's such a great idea to get them in that mindset that they can, you don't need 20% down anymore. We're not in that space anymore.
I love that. And we have a great question in the chat. Do we ever target out of state clients? For example, people moving from California, right? Like, awesome. And I would say, I don't know anybody who's doing that, but wow, what an awesome opportunity. And I'm going to take it one step further is you can easily look at housing trends. And by the way, you can look at housing trends on CADA, on our command system under your referral network. You can click on Oregon and see how many real estate referrals in the Keller Williams systems have happened in and out of Oregon, and what cities they are going to, which would be a great way to target market Facebook ads or any other marketing to those cities. So awesome.
Yeah, we used to do that. We did that with especially like a specialized type listing. We would actually run those ads if it was a luxury and other luxury like LA, places in California. Even though we were in Colorado, we'd run them in all sorts of luxury markets.
I love it.
One thing I was going to just mention, let's say on that link I shared, if you guys were talking a lot about structure, like how to structure the class, that link I put is by Kimberman Keedy. There is a ton, like there's a slideshow, like there's a great jumping off point. So you don't have to start at zero and build from scratch. So if you're like, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I was looking through that kit. It's pretty robust. You might just have to make a couple tweaks for virtual.
Jake, for those people on the state of the industry yesterday, it sounds a lot like a playbook. And I think that's a big thing, you guys, is you don't need to recreate the wheel, right? You've got great people, great resources, other people who've done this ahead of you, right? Like just pick up the playbook and run the play. And remember that, Aubrey, like when you did your first class, did you have 25, 30 people in there?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, this is about time and consistency, just like it is with anything else, just like it is with farming or whatever. So no, we definitely did not. I mean, I think we had like 6. So, but it's fine because it builds over time. The other thing is that being said about the consistency pieces, that if you're doing it every 4 weeks and it falls on a holiday, or it falls on when most people are graduating or whatever it is. And obviously you're not going to hold to it if it falls on on Christmas Day. So you have to be a little bit flexible, but overall the consistency is really important, just like it is with any, with anything, is you need to commit to it at a high level. So, and you also, the other piece of it too, is that if you're not doing a lot to actually market it, like if you're not doing the work before the class to get this in front of people, you're not going to have a lot of people show up. So this is not just like I show up on a Thursday from 6 to 8 and I'm done. Like this takes a couple of weeks of preparation before every class to make sure that people are in the class. And even if they, as I said, they don't come to the class, it's okay because they're in my database now and it's a touch and it's great. But it's work, but it's worth the effort. But you figure, how many hours am I actually putting into this if I get one transaction that closes because of it? And there's no cost here. Even in person, all of my power partners cover the cost, but on Zoom, I mean, aside from the Facebook ad, which we're all sort of sharing in, there is no cost to doing this. It really is just 2 hours of my time and then the prep work to make sure that we're doing the advertising beforehand.
One of the things that I just love, and I think you mentioned, like you stopped doing open houses, right? And this is not that you stopped doing them, but this is now that lead generation source. How many lead generation sources are people coming to you with their hand raised saying, I am serious and I need your professional experience and guidance? I want you guys to think about that. Like how many other lead generation sources does that actually happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And remember too, that even with the sellers class, the sellers often become buyers. We had someone who came to our last sellers class and I ended up, they used our team for the general contractor to get the listing live. It was in Aloha. And then we helped them buy a 10-acre property in Rainier. And that house was prepared by the general contractor before they moved in with some updates, and they used the lender from the class, right? Like, so it's really 2 transactions using all the power partners, including the home warranty guy. It's honestly like, it's a slam dunk. This is so much better return on investment than most other types of legs of lead generation, for me anyway.
I'm going to blow their mind again, Aubrey. And this is a question for the group. One of Aubrey's clients that went to her home buying seminar walks into your open house. What do you think your chances are of getting that client? So you said, I'm going to go back further in the timeline, and I'm going to create such raving fans here that I don't have to worry about that because I've got them before you even knew about them.
Because the follow-up is the key there. It's not just that they show up at the class and then we're done. And even if they don't set up an appointment, we're not done there, right? Like, now they're mine. They're not yours.
I love that. What other questions do you guys have? We got it.
I have a question, and it comes from when we talk about being careful when we are talking with our buyers, like giving them options for lenders, giving them options for insurance. What I hear you say is, work with this team and you'll receive this. So what happens in that part? I mean, I think I'm a little confused there, because I feel like my job is to make sure that I give them more than one lender, and that I've worked with these lenders, they're all good, but the choice is yours. Whereas if I say, but this lender will give you 500, they're obviously going to go there. So how does that look?
I mean, she's a preferred lender of mine. And okay. And it's her $500 is coming from her. If they don't want to use her, then they're not going to get the $500 from her. And that would be the case. Like, she has other programs, for example, like if you're a veteran, if you're a first responder, if you're a teacher, she has different, like $500, whatever it is, credits that she gives for people. So if you don't want to use her and you're in one of those categories, that's totally fine. You're just not going to get that credit either.
And can I go off a liability front there too, Teresa? Like,
that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, they chose to come to this class, right?
Okay.
Like, that was sponsored by these professionals. It would be the exact same thing. Like, we have lots of training events where we have a sponsor, right? And we say, this is the home warranty company. We don't say, but there's lots of other home warranty companies out there that you could use.
Okay.
Well, and the other piece of that too is that sometimes from the class, they don't end up using Natalie, for example. Like, Natalie's specialty is not in down payment assistance programs like Oregon Bond or Chinoa. Like, that's not her jam. If people need that, then even people that take the class, and I am referring them to people that specialize in that. So they don't have to use any of these people. This is who we are partnering in, because we, as Leslie says, we are presenting that class. And the same thing with Bryce. Like, if Country Financial is not the least expensive or the kind of whatever it is that they want, they don't have to use them. Bryce isn't offering anything for people to use him anyway. I'm offering the home warranty to those people that are taking the class and also using Natalie, but they still get something from me at closing if it's not a home warranty. It's just that particular gift is for people that take the class.
Gotcha.
Well, and I was going to say, you could address it at like the official buyer consultation is how we do it. We say, here's our recommended preferred lending partner. Here's Keller Mortgage. And by the way, do you have a lender that you would prefer?
We always do that at buyers consults.
Right. I mean, like, we're eliminating it there.
Yeah. I don't have one partner I have, Teresa, as you said, like, I've got, 3 title companies that I use, 3 inspectors that I recommend, 3, I do generally 3 of everything. It's just this particular class is with this particular lender.
Okay. And I was just trying to feel how you get around, and I'm going to use the wrong words because nothing else is coming to me. bribing, saying, hey, you'll get this if you use this team.
Yeah, it's just, well, they will offer that $500 credit. They're allowed to do that.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense once I started listening to like when we have a vendor who comes in to do a seminar and we get 10% discount for using them or whatever the case may be, it's our option. So I got it.
Cool. Thanks for the question.
That's awesome though. Great. You guys, it is 9:46. This was awesome, Aubrey, and I'm so glad that it was recorded. For those of you who want to go back and do nuggets, check out the link that Jake put in. And Jake, they can get that anytime off KW Connect, right?
Yes.
Cool. We will also be posting the recording of this on kwtechhelp.com. You can go back and see any of our momentum masterminds or our mastery models masterminds. So if there's a piece that you want, or you want to share this with any other agents and or power partners, right? You guys, like if you have people that you want to invite into your world to do seminars, this may be a great video to go back and say, hey, here's a model that we could implement together. So you don't have to be the master right now as you grow towards that. So please utilize this as a resource. Thank you for coming today. We will see you next month, same time, same place, and have a powerful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, thank you, Aubrey.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as always.